Welcome to Calm Mind, where thoughts finally slow down. I'm so glad you found your way here tonight. You don't need to focus, fix anything, or understand everything you hear tonight. Just let the words pass through as you rest. This is a gentle microdose of calm. Tonight, we talk about something you might not even realize you're doing. Something so constant, so automatic, that it's become invisible to you. You're holding everything together. Not just your own life, not just your own struggles, but everyone else's too. You're the one people lean on, the one who keeps things from falling apart. The one who holds it all together when everything threatens to come undone. And tonight, I want to tell you something you might desperately need to hear. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to stop holding everything together. You're allowed to stop being the strong one. You're allowed to stop being everyone's anchor. You're allowed to let your hands open and release what you've been gripping so tightly for so long. This might bring up fear, but if I stop holding it together, everything will fall apart. If I'm not strong, who will be? If I let go, what will happen? But here's what's also true. You're exhausted. You've been holding so much for so long. And the weight of being the one who holds everything, that weight is crushing you. If this journey brings you some peace, understanding, or permission to be gentler with yourself, like and subscribe. This helps guide others to this peaceful space. Leave a comment on what brought you here tonight. Your story might be exactly what another restless mind needs to hear. Return whenever you need. Remind yourself about these truths. But for now, in this moment, your only task is to be here. Let your muscles release their tension. Feel your eyelids becoming pleasantly heavy. Allow your thoughts to slow and soften as we begin this journey together. So tonight, we explore what it means to stop holding, to let your grip loosen, to allow yourself to be held instead of always being the one doing the holding. As you settle into your resting place, notice where you're holding, not just physically, though you might notice tension in your hands, your jaw, your shoulders. But emotionally, mentally, spiritually, notice all the places where you're gripping, bracing, holding on. Holding your family together, holding your relationship together, holding your work together, holding yourself together, holding other people's emotions, holding space for everyone else's struggles, holding, holding, holding. And see if you can let yourself soften, just a little, not all at once. That might feel too scary, but just a little less gripping, a little more allowing, a little bit of opening your hands. Breathe in slowly and breathe out longer. With each exhale, imagine releasing just a small portion of what you're holding, not dropping it entirely, not letting everything crash, just loosening your grip slightly, just enough to rest. For the next 3.5 hours, you have permission to stop holding everything together, permission to not be the strong one, permission to let things be held by something other than your constant vigilance and effort. This is radical for someone who's always been the holder, the responsible one, the capable one, the one everyone depends on, to just stop, to let your hands open, to release the weight you've been carrying. But maybe it's exactly what you need. Maybe you're not exhausted from life being difficult. You're exhausted from holding everything together while life is difficult. Maybe the weight isn't the circumstances themselves, but your role as the one who prevents everything from falling apart. So tonight, let yourself explore what happens when you stop, when you release your grip, when you trust that maybe, just maybe, everything doesn't need you to hold it for it to be okay. There's a Greek myth about Atlas, condemned to hold up the sky for eternity. His punishment was to bear the weight of the heavens on his shoulders forever, never able to rest, never able to put it down. Sometimes, that might be how you feel, like you're Atlas. Like you're holding up the entire world. Like if you stop, if you rest, if you let go, everything will come crashing down. But here's the thing, you're not Atlas. You're not holding up the sky. You're holding up your life, and probably pieces of other people's lives. And that's exhausting enough without the mythology of it being your eternal punishment. You weren't condemned to this. You chose it, or it chose you. But either way, it's not a permanent sentence. You can put it down. Not forever, maybe. Not all at once. Probably, but you can rest from it. You can loosen your grip. And here's what's interesting about the Atlas myth. In one version, he does get relief. Hercules takes the weight for him, briefly, and Atlas experiences what it's like to have shoulders that aren't bearing the world, to stand upright without crushing weight, to simply be, without holding. Tonight, you get to be Atlas getting relief. Just for these hours. Just to feel what it's like when you're not holding everything. When your shoulders can drop. When your hands can open. When you can simply exist without the weight. Let's talk about the particular exhaustion of being the person who holds everything together. Because it's different from other kinds of tired. It's not just physical exhaustion, though your body is tired. It's not just mental exhaustion, though your mind is weary. It's something deeper. It's the exhaustion of never being able to fall apart. Of always having to be okay. Of always having to be strong enough for everyone else. It's the exhaustion of being vigilant. Of always monitoring. Is everyone okay? Is anything about to fall apart? Do I need to intervene? Do I need to fix something? Do I need to hold something together? That vigilance never turns off. It runs in the background constantly, and it's draining. It's the exhaustion of responsibility, not just responsibility for yourself, but for everyone else, for their feelings, their well-being, their stability. You carry not just your own weight but everyone else's too, and that accumulates. It's the exhaustion of not being able to show weakness, because you're the strong one. You're the capable one. People depend on you, so you can't fall apart. You can't be the one who needs support. You have to keep it together so everyone else can lean on you. This kind of exhaustion, it's not visible. People don't see it. They see you handling things. They see you being strong. They don't see the cost. They don't see how much it takes from you to always be the one holding everything. And maybe you don't even let yourself see it, because acknowledging how exhausted you are feels dangerous. Like if you admit how tired you are, you might not be able to keep going. So you just keep going, keep holding, keep being strong, and the exhaustion accumulates, invisible and heavy. Tonight, you can acknowledge it. You can let yourself feel how tired you are, how long you've been holding, how heavy it's been, and you can let yourself rest from it, just for now, just for these hours, just to remember what it feels like when you're not holding everything. Let's get specific. What are you actually holding together? Maybe you're holding your family together. You're the one who remembers birthdays, who organizes gatherings, who mediates conflicts, who keeps everyone connected. Without you, everyone would drift apart. Or so you believe. So you keep holding. Maybe you're holding your relationship together. You're the one who brings up difficult conversations, who works on communication, who reads the relationship books, who makes sure you're staying connected. Your partner gets to just exist in the relationship. You do the work of maintaining it. Maybe you're holding your workplace together. You're the one people come to when things go wrong. You're the problem solver, the fixer, the one who handles the difficult situations. You keep things running. Without you, everything would be chaos. Or so they make you believe. Maybe you're holding your friends together. You're the one who checks in, who makes plans, who holds space for everyone's struggles. You're the emotional support, the listener, the advice giver. You hold your friends' pain so they don't have to hold it alone. Maybe you're holding yourself together. Barely. You're functioning, showing up, doing what needs to be done. But inside, you're falling apart. And you can't let anyone see that. So you hold yourself together, tightly, constantly, exhaustingly. All of this holding, it's real work. It takes real energy. It's not nothing. It's not easy. It's not sustainable indefinitely. And tonight, you get to put it down. But there's fear around letting go, isn't there? Real, legitimate fear about what happens if you stop holding everything together. You might fear that everything will actually fall apart, that your family will become disconnected, that your relationship will end, that your workplace will descend into chaos, that your friends will be lost without your support, that you yourself will completely unravel. You might fear that you'll be seen as weak, that people will lose respect for you, that they'll realize you're not as capable as they thought, that they'll be disappointed in you. You might fear that you'll lose your identity, because being the strong one, the capable one, the holder, that's who you are. That's what people value about you. If you stop being that, who are you? You might fear that you'll be selfish, that prioritizing your own need to rest means abandoning everyone else, that letting go of what you're holding means you don't care, that it's wrong to stop when people still need you. These fears are understandable. They're real. They matter, but they're also mostly not true, or at least not as catastrophic as you imagine. Most things won't actually fall apart if you stop holding them. Most people are more capable than you give them credit for. Most situations will work out even without your constant intervention. Most of what you think will happen if you let go won't. And even if some things do shift when you stop holding, even if some dynamics change, even if some people are uncomfortable, even if some situations aren't held together perfectly, that might actually be okay. It might even be healthy. It might be what needs to happen. So tonight, we'll explore the fear. We'll acknowledge it. We'll respect it. But we'll also explore what might be possible on the other side of it. What might be waiting for you if you're brave enough to loosen your grip. There's a belief you might be carrying that you're indispensable, that without you holding everything together, everything would collapse, that you're the only thing standing between order and chaos. This belief feels true because you've been holding for so long. You've become so central to keeping things functioning that it seems impossible for things to function without you. But this is a myth, a powerful myth, but a myth nonetheless. Because systems that depend entirely on one person holding everything together are fundamentally unsustainable. They're not actually functioning well. They're being propped up by your exhaustion. And the truth is, you're not indispensable. No one is. That's not an insult to your importance or your value. It's just reality. Life continues. Systems adapt. People figure things out, even without your constant holding. In fact, your holding might be preventing healthy adaptation. When you hold everything together, other people don't have to step up. They don't have to develop their own capacity. They don't have to take responsibility. Your holding keeps everyone dependent, including you. What would happen if you tested this? What if you let go of one thing you've been holding and observed what happens? Not everything, just one thing. See if it actually falls apart, or if it reorganizes in a way you didn't expect. Let's trace how holding became not just what you do, but who you are. Because somewhere along the way, holding stopped being a choice and became your identity. Maybe you got praise for being responsible. You're so mature for your age. You're so reliable. I don't know what we'd do without you. And that praise felt good. It felt like love. So you did more of it. Maybe you got attention only when you were useful, when you were helping, supporting, holding things together. People noticed you. When you weren't being useful, you felt invisible. So being the holder became the way you ensured you mattered. Maybe holding gave you a sense of control in an unpredictable world. If you could just hold enough things together, you could prevent bad things from happening. You could keep people safe. You could create stability through sheer force of will. Or maybe you saw what happened when things fell apart, and you decided, never again. I'll make sure everything stays together. I'll be the one who prevents chaos. And that decision, made perhaps in childhood, has been running your life ever since. However it happened, holding became your identity. And now, letting go feels like losing yourself. Who are you if you're not the one holding everything? What's your purpose if you're not preventing things from falling apart? Here's something crucial to understand. You can care about people without carrying their weight. These are not the same thing, though you've been treating them as if they are. Caring means, I'm present to your struggle. I see you. I support you. I'm here with you. But your struggle is yours to move through, and I trust you can do that. Carrying means, I'll take your struggle from you. I'll make it my responsibility to fix it, manage it, solve it. You don't have to carry this. I'll carry it for you. Caring is sustainable. Carrying is not. Caring respects autonomy. Carrying creates dependence. Caring allows growth. Carrying prevents it. You can care deeply about someone's pain without taking ownership of that pain. You can support someone's process without managing their process for them. You can be present without being responsible. This distinction might change everything, because you're not choosing between caring or not caring. You're choosing between caring in a sustainable way versus caring in a way that destroys you. Your body has been trying to tell you something. For how long now? Months? Years? Your body has been sending signals that you're holding too much. Maybe it's tension that never fully releases. Your shoulders perpetually raised. Your jaw perpetually tight. Your hands perpetually clenched. Physical manifestations of the emotional and mental holding you're doing. Maybe it's exhaustion that sleep doesn't fix. You rest, but you don't feel rested. Because your body can't fully rest when your nervous system is still in holding mode, still vigilant, still braced. Maybe it's pain that has no clear physical cause. Headaches, back pain, digestive issues. Your body expressing through symptoms what you won't let yourself express through words. This is too much. I can't hold this anymore. Your body doesn't have the same investment in your identity as the holder. Your body just wants to survive, to rest, to not be in constant stress mode. And it's been trying to tell you, we can't keep doing this. Tonight, can you listen to your body? Can you hear what it's been trying to tell you? Can you honor its need to stop holding, even if your mind protests that you can't? Let's talk about what it means to be the strong one, the person everyone relies on, the one who never falls apart because you're too busy holding everyone else together. How did you become this person? Maybe you were the eldest child, and responsibility was given to you early. Take care of your siblings. Set a good example. Be the responsible one. Maybe you had a parent who wasn't capable of holding things together, and you had to step into that role. Someone had to be the adult. Someone had to keep things stable. And that someone became you, even when you were still a child yourself. Maybe you experienced something difficult and people praised you for how well you handled it. You're so strong. You're holding up so well. And you learned, being strong is what people value. Being strong is what keeps people close. So you became the strong one. Maybe people just started depending on you because you were capable. You could handle things. You got stuff done. And gradually, you became the person everyone turned to. The reliable one. The one who holds it together. However it happened, at some point, the strong one became your identity, your role, your value, and now you don't know how to be anything else. But here's what no one tells you about being the strong one. It's lonely. Everyone gets to be weak around you. Everyone gets to fall apart, struggle, need support. But you don't get that. You're the strong one. You're the one who provides support, not the one who receives it. People come to you with their problems. You listen, you help, you hold space. But where do you go with your problems? Who holds space for you? Often, No one. Because you're the strong one. You're supposed to handle your own stuff. And if you do try to share your struggles, what happens? Often, people are uncomfortable. They don't know how to hold you. They're so used to you holding them that they don't have the capacity to reverse roles. Or they minimize what you're going through. But you're so capable. You'll figure it out. As if being capable means you don't also struggle. So you stop sharing. You keep your struggles to yourself. You handle your own stuff while still holding everyone else's. And the loneliness of that, the loneliness of being strong for everyone but having no one to be strong for you, that's its own kind of pain. There's also this. Being the strong one means you never get to rest. Because people depend on you. So even when you're exhausted, even when you're struggling, even when you desperately need a break, you keep going. Because what choice do you have? People need you. And there's resentment in that. You might not want to admit it. You might feel guilty about it. But it's there. Resentment that everyone else gets to be weak while you have to be strong. Resentment that no one seems to notice how much you're carrying. Resentment that your needs always come last. That resentment is valid. It doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you human. It's the natural response to carrying more than your share for too long without support. Here's something else. Often, you're not actually as strong as people think. You're just performing strength. You're holding it together on the outside while falling apart on the inside. You smile and say you're fine when you're not fine. You handle responsibilities when you're barely holding it together yourself. You show up for everyone else when you can barely show up for yourself. It's not strength, it's survival. It's the performance of being okay when you're very much not okay. But you've gotten so good at the performance that people believe it. They think you're actually fine. They think you're actually handling everything well. They don't see the truth. You're exhausted, overwhelmed, barely keeping your head above water. And you can't tell them. Because you're the strong one. And strong people don't fall apart. Strong people don't need help. Strong people don't admit they're barely surviving. So you keep performing, and the gap between the performance and the reality grows wider. The energy it takes to maintain that performance, that's exhausting all on its own. You're not just dealing with your actual struggles. You're also managing everyone's perception that you don't have struggles. That's 2 full-time jobs, living your life and pretending your life isn't hard. What would happen if you stopped performing? If you let people see that you're not actually holding it together, that you're struggling too, that you're human too? It might be scary. It might change how people see you, but it might also be a relief. The relief of not having to pretend anymore. The relief of being seen as you actually are. The relief of being human instead of being strong. Here's a challenging question. Who are you if you're not the strong one? If you stopped holding everything together, if you stopped being everyone's support system, if you stopped being the capable, reliable one, who would you be? This might feel like a crisis of identity, because being strong isn't just what you do, it's who you are. It's how people know you. It's what they value about you. Without that role, you might feel invisible, unnecessary, worthless. But that's the trap of deriving your worth from your role. Your value becomes conditional on continuing to perform that role. You can't stop being strong, because then what do you have to offer? What reason do people have to keep you around? But your worth isn't conditional on being strong. Your value doesn't come from what you do for others. You're not valuable because you hold things together. You're valuable because you exist. Because you're human. Because you matter, regardless of your utility to others. Who are you without the role? Maybe you're someone who needs support sometimes. Someone who struggles. Someone who's vulnerable. Someone who's honest about not having it all together. Someone who's real instead of performing. And maybe that person, the real you, not the strong one performance, maybe that person is worthy of love and connection. Maybe that person deserves rest and care. Maybe that person doesn't have to earn their place by holding everyone else's weight. It might take time to discover who you are without the role. You might have been performing strength for so long that you don't actually know yourself underneath it. But that discovery, that's worth the fear. That's worth the risk of letting the performance drop. Let's name what's actually involved in being the person who holds everything together. Because it's not nothing. It's real work. And it's largely invisible. There's the emotional labor. Managing not just your own emotions but everyone else's. Reading the room. Sensing tension. Mediating conflicts before they escalate. Smoothing things over. Keeping everyone comfortable. There's the cognitive labor. Remembering everything. Tracking everyone's needs, schedules, preferences, struggles. planning ahead, anticipating problems, thinking 3 steps ahead so things don't fall apart. There's the relational labor, maintaining connections, checking in on people, initiating plans, remembering to reach out, keeping relationships alive through your consistent effort. There's the practical labor, actually doing the things that need doing, because if you don't do them, they won't get done, or they'll get done poorly. So you do them again and again, indefinitely. All of this is work, real work, and it's exhausting, but it's invisible work. People don't see it happening. They just see that things are working, that everything's under control, that nothing's falling apart. They don't see you. They don't see the effort. They don't see the cost. And because they don't see it, they don't value it. They take it for granted. They assume it just happens naturally, effortlessly, without cost to you. But you know the cost. You feel it. In your exhaustion, in your resentment, in the way you've disappeared from your own life because you're too busy holding everyone else's life together. Here's a trap you might have fallen into. The trap of competence. You're good at holding things together. You're capable. You can handle things. And that competence has become a trap. Because when you're competent, people rely on you. They assume you can handle it. They assume you don't need help. They assume that because you're managing everything, you're fine with managing everything. But competence doesn't mean effortlessly. Just because you can do something doesn't mean it's not costing you. Just because you're managing doesn't mean you're not struggling. And here's the cruel irony. The better you get at holding everything, the more invisible your effort becomes. When you first started, maybe people noticed. Maybe they thanked you. But over time, it became expected. Your competence became the baseline. So now, you hold everything together and no one even notices. It's just how things are. And if you stopped, if you struggled, if you asked for help, people would be shocked. But you always handle everything so well. The trap of competence is that your capability prevents people from seeing your need. And your need doesn't go away just because you're capable. You still need support. You still need rest. You still need people to notice how much you're carrying. There's a point where strength stops being real and becomes performance, where you're not actually strong. You're just pretending to be strong because that's what everyone expects. Real strength includes vulnerability, includes admitting when you're struggling, includes asking for help when you need it, includes sometimes not being strong. But performed strength is rigid. It's the mask that never comes off. It's the I'm fine when you're not fine. It's the holding it together even when you're falling apart inside. It's strength as defense mechanism rather than genuine resilience. And performed strength is exhausting because it's not sustainable. It's not real. It's a constant effort to maintain an image that doesn't match reality. The performance started maybe as protection. If you seem strong, people won't hurt you. If you seem capable, people won't abandon you. If you seem like you have it together, people won't see your vulnerability. But now the performance has become a prison. You can't stop performing because you don't know who you are without the performance. And you're terrified that if people see the real you, the struggling, vulnerable, sometimes not okay you, they'll leave. What if you let the performance drop? Just a little. Just to see what happens. You might be surprised to find that people don't leave, that they're relieved to see you're human, that they've been waiting for permission to be human around you too. Let's talk about what holding everything costs your relationships. Because it costs more than you might realize. It costs intimacy, because intimacy requires mutual vulnerability. But if you're always the strong one, always the holder, you're not vulnerable. You're not letting people see you, so they can be vulnerable with you. But you can't be vulnerable with them. That's not intimacy, that's one-directional support. It costs reciprocity. Healthy relationships involve give and take. But if you're always giving, always supporting, always holding, there's no take. You don't receive. You don't let people give to you. And that imbalance eventually corrodes the relationship. It costs authenticity. You can't be real when you're always performing strength. You can't share your actual struggles, your actual fears, your actual needs. So people know a version of you, not the real you. And that's lonely. It costs equality. When you're the holder, you're in a parental role. You're taking care of everyone else. But that creates hierarchy. You're above, they're below. You're the capable one, they're the needy ones. That's not a relationship between equals. And it costs connection. Real connection happens between real people. But when you're always in holder mode, you're not being real. You're being a role, a function, a support system. And people connect with the role, not with you. So yes, people depend on you. Yes, they need you. But is that what you actually want? To be needed but not truly known? To be depended on but not truly connected with? To be valued for your function but not for your humanity? Not everything you're holding is yours to hold. Some of what's weighing you down doesn't belong to you. It never did. But you picked it up anyway, or it was placed on you, and you've been carrying it ever since. Let's look at what you're holding that isn't actually yours. You might be holding other people's emotions, their sadness, their anxiety, their stress. They feel something difficult, and somehow you end up carrying it for them. You absorb their distress. You take it on as if it's your responsibility to make them feel better. But their emotions are not your responsibility. You can care about someone's pain without taking ownership of it. You can be present to their struggle without making it your job to fix their feelings. Their emotions are theirs to feel, theirs to process, theirs to move through. Yet you've been holding them, taking them on, carrying emotional weight that was never yours to carry. And that's exhausting, because emotions are heavy. And when you're carrying everyone else's emotions on top of your own, that's an impossible load. You might be holding other people's responsibilities, things they should be handling themselves, but you've taken over. Maybe because they couldn't handle it. Maybe because you could do it better. Maybe because it was easier to just do it yourself than to watch them struggle. But doing things for people that they should be doing for themselves doesn't actually help them. It keeps them dependent. It keeps them from developing their own capacity. And it keeps you exhausted from carrying more than your share. You might be holding other people's expectations. What they want you to be, what they need you to be, what they expect you to achieve or become or maintain. You're living your life not according to what you want, but according to what you think others expect from you. But their expectations are not your obligations. You don't owe it to anyone to be what they want you to be. You don't have to meet standards you never agreed to. You're allowed to live according to your own values, your own desires, your own sense of what matters, even if that disappoints people. You might be holding other people's problems, not just helping with problems, actually taking ownership of problems that aren't yours. Your adult child's financial mess, your friend's relationship drama, your co-worker's work crisis, problems that should be theirs to solve, but you've made them yours. And here's the thing, you can't actually solve other people's problems. Not really. You can offer support, guidance, resources, but the actual solving, that has to come from them. And when you try to solve problems that aren't yours, you exhaust yourself for something that ultimately doesn't work anyway. How did this happen? How did you end up responsible for things that aren't your responsibility? Maybe you were taught that love means taking care of people, that caring means taking on their burdens, that being a good person means making yourself responsible for everyone else's well-being. So you learn to equate love with carrying what isn't yours. Maybe you have a strong sense of capability. You can handle things. And when you see someone struggling with something you could easily handle, it's natural to step in. But what started as helping gradually became enabling. And now you're carrying what they could be carrying themselves. Maybe people placed their burdens on you and you didn't know how to say no. They needed someone to hold their emotions, their responsibilities, their problems. And you were there. And you were capable. So you became the repository for everyone's overflow. Maybe you're trying to control outcomes by controlling inputs. If you hold everything, if you manage everything, if you're responsible for everything, then you can prevent bad things from happening. It's an illusion of control in an uncontrollable world. Whatever the reason, you've ended up holding far more than is actually yours. And the weight of that, the weight of everyone else's emotions and responsibilities and problems and expectations, that's crushing you. Let's be clear, this isn't about becoming cold or uncaring or refusing to help anyone. There's a difference between supporting people and carrying their weight for them. Supporting someone means, I'm here with you while you deal with this. I'll listen. I'll care. I'll offer what help I can. But ultimately, this is yours to handle, and I trust that you can handle it. Carrying someone's weight means, I'll take this from you. I'll make it my responsibility. I'll manage your emotions, solve your problems, Meet your expectations. You don't have to handle this. I'll handle it for you. Supporting is sustainable. Carrying is not. Supporting respects boundaries. Carrying erases them. Supporting helps people grow stronger. Carrying keeps them dependent. And supporting allows you to care for others without destroying yourself in the process. Because you're not taking on their weight. You're standing beside them while they carry their own weight. That's a very different energetic exchange. So when we talk about putting down what isn't yours, we're not talking about becoming uncaring. We're talking about shifting from carrying to supporting. From taking ownership of other people's lives to being present to their lives while they take ownership. So what actually happens when you put down what isn't yours? First, you might feel guilty. You've been holding this for so long that putting it down feels like abandonment. Like you're letting people down. Like you're being selfish or uncaring. That guilt is normal, but it's not accurate. You're not abandoning anyone. You're just returning to them what was always theirs. You're establishing healthy boundaries. You're taking care of yourself so you don't burn out completely. Second, some people might be upset. They've gotten used to you carrying their weight. They've become dependent on it. When you stop, they'll have to carry their own weight, and that's uncomfortable for them. They might protest. They might accuse you of changing, of not caring, of being selfish. And that's hard. But their discomfort with carrying their own weight is not a reason for you to keep carrying it. Their dependence on you is not your responsibility to maintain. You're allowed to set boundaries even when it upsets people. Third, some things might actually change or fall apart temporarily, without you holding everything together. Dynamics shift. Systems that were only working because of your efforts stop working. Problems that you were managing become visible. And that can be scary. It can feel like confirmation that you were right to hold everything. Look what happens when you don't. But actually, it might be necessary. Systems that only work because one person is carrying too much are unsustainable systems. They need to break down so they can reorganize into something more sustainable. Fourth, you'll have energy you didn't know you had. All the energy you were using to carry what isn't yours, that becomes available. And suddenly you have capacity for things you haven't had capacity for in years. For rest. For joy. For your own life. And fifth, you might discover who you actually are. Underneath the role of holder, underneath the weight of everyone else's stuff, there's you. Your actual desires, your actual needs, your actual life. And that life might look different than you imagined, but it's yours. Let's practice, right now, in this moment. We're going to practice putting down what isn't yours. Think of something you're holding that isn't actually yours to hold. Someone's emotions, someone's responsibility, someone's problem, something you've been carrying that rightfully belongs to someone else. Feel the weight of it. Where do you feel it in your body? Chest, shoulders, stomach. Just notice where you're carrying this weight that isn't yours. And now, imagine setting it down, not throwing it away, not abandoning it, just placing it down, giving it back, returning it to where it belongs. You might say, internally, this is yours, not mine. I care about you, but I can't carry this for you. I'm giving this back to you. Notice what happens. Do you feel lighter? Do you feel guilty? Do you feel scared? All of those are okay. Just notice. And breathe into the space that opens up. The space where you were carrying something that wasn't yours. That space is now available for rest, for your own life, for what actually is yours to carry. This is practice. You don't have to actually put it down in your life right now, but you can feel what it would be like. You can remember this feeling, this lightness, this space, and you can know that it's available to you when you're ready. Let's talk about what it costs you to never fall apart, to always be the one holding it together, to always be strong, capable, okay. It costs you authenticity, because you can't be real when you're always performing strength. Real means sometimes being weak, sometimes being uncertain, sometimes being a mess. But you can't afford that. So you perform. And in the performance, you lose touch with what's real. You lose touch with your actual feelings. Because you can't feel them fully, that would mean falling apart. So you manage them, control them, keep them contained, and gradually, you become disconnected from your own emotional life. You don't even know what you actually feel anymore because you're so practiced at not feeling it fully. It costs you intimacy, Because intimacy requires vulnerability, requires letting someone see you as you actually are, struggles, weaknesses, mess and all. But you can't do that. You can't let anyone see you falling apart. So your relationships stay surface level. People know the strong version of you. No one knows the real you. And that's lonely. So lonely. To be surrounded by people but known by no one. To have relationships but no real intimacy. To be the person everyone turns to but having nowhere to turn yourself. It costs you rest. Because falling apart is sometimes how we rest. Sometimes falling apart is what we need. To cry, to rage, to collapse, to just be a mess for a while. That's how we release accumulated stress and emotion. But you can't afford that release. So the stress and emotion accumulate. And you never truly rest. It costs you growth. Because growth sometimes requires falling apart. The old version of you has to dissolve before the new version can emerge. But you can't afford to dissolve. You have to stay intact. You have to keep it together. So you stay stuck in outdated versions of yourself because you can't afford the falling apart that growth requires. It costs you health. The stress of never falling apart, of always holding it together, that takes a physical toll. Your nervous system never fully relaxes. Your body stays in a state of tension. And over time, that manifests in physical symptoms. Headaches, digestive issues, chronic pain, illness. It costs you your life. Because life is happening right now. But you're not fully present to it. You're too busy holding everything together to actually experience your life. Moments pass you by. Joy is muted. Beauty goes unnoticed. You're surviving but not living. These costs, they accumulate, they compound, and at some point, the cost of never falling apart becomes greater than the cost of actually falling apart. At some point, holding it together is more destructive than letting it fall apart. Let's talk about what falling apart actually means, because there's a lot of fear around it, and some of that fear is based on misunderstanding. Falling apart doesn't mean permanent breakdown. It doesn't mean you'll never put yourself back together. It doesn't mean you're weak or defective or failing. Falling apart means letting yourself feel what you've been holding back. It means crying when you need to cry. It means admitting you're overwhelmed. It means saying, "I can't handle this right now." It means being honest about struggling instead of pretending you're fine. Falling apart means letting go of the performance. Letting people see that you're not actually holding it together. That you're human. That you struggle too. And here's what's interesting. Falling apart is often not as catastrophic as you fear. Most of the time, when you finally let yourself fall apart, what happens is relief, release, and then, gradually, you come back together. Not the same as before, something has shifted, but you come back together. Falling apart is not the end. It's a transition. It's the space between versions of yourself. It's the dissolution that allows for reorganization. It's necessary. It's healthy. It's human. One fear about falling apart is, who will hold me if I fall apart? If I'm not the one holding everyone, who holds me? And that's a real fear, because you might not have people in your life who can hold you. You might have trained everyone to see you as the holder, and they don't know how to be the holder for you. But here's the thing. You won't know who can hold you until you let yourself fall apart in front of them. You might be surprised. Some people you thought couldn't hold you, can. Some people rise to the occasion when you actually need them. And some people can't. Some people are too uncomfortable with your vulnerability. Some people need you to be strong for their own reasons. And when you fall apart, they can't handle it. They pull away or minimize or get upset. That's hard. That's painful. But it's also information. It shows you who your real support system is, who can be there for you in both strength and weakness. And that's valuable information, even though it hurts to discover some people can't be there for you the way you've been there for them. But even if no one can hold you, even if you're completely alone in falling apart, you can still fall apart. Because falling apart doesn't require an audience. It doesn't require someone else's permission or support. It's something you do for yourself. A release you give yourself. And sometimes, falling apart alone is actually profound. Because you discover, I can fall apart and come back together. I can be with myself in the falling apart. I can hold myself, even when no one else can hold me. That's not ideal. You deserve people who can hold you. But it's powerful. It's discovering your own strength, not the strength of holding it together, but the strength of allowing yourself to fall apart and trusting you'll be okay. When you finally let yourself fall apart, You discover things you couldn't discover while holding it together. You discover what you actually feel. All the emotions you've been managing, controlling, containing, they finally get to be felt. And yes, that's overwhelming. But it's also clarifying. You finally know what you're actually feeling instead of what you think you should be feeling. You discover what you actually need. When you're holding it together, you can't afford to have needs. But when you fall apart, your needs become undeniable. And you discover, I need rest. I need support. I need space. I need things to be different. Needs you've been ignoring become visible. You discover who you actually are. Underneath the performance of strength, underneath the role of holder, there's you. The real you. With vulnerabilities and limits and needs and messiness. And that real you, that's who you've been missing. That's who you've been performing over. You discover your limits. You discover you can't actually hold everything. You're not superhuman. You have a breaking point. And hitting that breaking point, while painful, is also honest. It's reality. And living in reality, even painful reality, is healthier than living in the fantasy that you have infinite capacity. You discover what actually matters. When everything falls apart, when you can't hold it all anymore, you discover what's actually essential. What really needs your attention. What's actually important. And often, it's not what you thought. Often, it's simpler, smaller, more basic than all the things you've been trying to hold. You discover that you survive. The thing you feared most, falling apart, happens. And you're still here. You survive it. You come back from it. And that discovery, that you can fall apart and survive, that you can be undone and remake yourself, that's powerful. That's the kind of strength you can actually rely on. So maybe falling apart isn't the disaster you fear. Maybe it's the breakthrough you need. Maybe it's the release that lets you finally come back together in a way that's actually sustainable, actually honest, actually true to who you are. When you finally stop holding everything, there's grief. Grief for the time you lost. The years you spent holding what wasn't yours. The life you didn't get to live because you were too busy holding everyone else's life together. This grief is real. It deserves acknowledgement. You gave so much of yourself to holding. And what did you get in return? Often, not much. Expectation. dependence, the burden of being the strong one, but not actual care, not actual support, not reciprocity. You might grieve the relationships that weren't actually relationships, that were just people using you as their support system, people who valued what you did for them but didn't value you. You might grieve the version of yourself who thought holding everything was love, who thought being needed was the same as being loved, who sacrificed their own needs thinking that's what good people do. You might grieve the life you could have lived, the things you could have experienced, created, explored if you hadn't been so busy holding everything together. The person you could have become if you'd had energy for your own growth instead of everyone else's problems. Let yourself grieve. This is important. Grief is how we metabolize loss. And there is loss here. Real loss. Not dramatic, but real. The loss of time, energy, life that went to holding what wasn't yours. And as you grieve, you might also feel anger. Anger at the people who let you carry so much. Anger at yourself for allowing it. Anger at the systems that made this seem normal, even virtuous. That anger is valid too. It doesn't make you a bad person. It makes you someone recognizing an injustice. The injustice of one person carrying everyone's weight while receiving little support themselves. When you stop holding everything, you have to rebuild your sense of self, because so much of your identity was wrapped up in being the holder. This rebuilding is not quick. It's not easy. It's not linear. It's a process of discovering who you are when you're not defined by what you do for others. You might discover interests you'd forgotten about, things you used to enjoy before you became consumed with holding everything. Or new interests that emerge now that you have space and energy for yourself. You might discover needs you've been ignoring. Your need for rest. Your need for play. Your need for creative expression. Your need for solitude. Your need for adventure. Needs that couldn't be attended to when all your energy went to everyone else. You might discover values that differ from what you were taught. Maybe you were taught that sacrifice is the highest virtue, that putting yourself last is noble. But you might discover, actually, I value balance. I value sustainability. I value taking care of myself so I can genuinely care for others. You might discover that you're more than your utility, that your worth doesn't come from what you do for others, that you're valuable simply for existing, for being human, for being you. This rebuilding takes time. Be patient with yourself. You're not just changing behaviors. You're reconstructing your entire sense of who you are. That's profound work. It deserves time and gentleness. As you stop holding everything, you'll need to set boundaries. Real boundaries. Not just in theory but in practice. And this is hard. A boundary might sound like, "I can't help with that right now," or "That's not mine to solve," or "I need you to handle this yourself," or simply, "No." People won't like your boundaries. They've gotten used to you having none. They've gotten used to accessing you whenever they need something. Your boundaries will feel like rejection to them. But their discomfort is not your responsibility. You're not responsible for managing their feelings about your boundaries. Your boundaries exist to protect your well-being, not to make everyone comfortable. Some people will respect your boundaries once they understand you're serious. They'll adjust. They'll find other resources. They'll develop their own capacity. These are the people worth keeping. Some people won't respect your boundaries. They'll push back. They'll guilt trip you. They'll try to make you responsible for their feelings about your limits. These people might need to be loved from a distance. Setting boundaries will feel selfish at first. You've been taught that your needs don't matter as much as others' needs. But that teaching is wrong. Your needs matter equally. Your well-being matters. You matter. So practice saying no. Practice protecting your energy. Practice choosing yourself sometimes. It gets easier. And it gets necessary. Because the alternative, no boundaries, holding everything, that's unsustainable. Part of letting go requires trusting that other people are more capable than you've been giving them credit for. You've been treating people as if they can't handle their own lives, as if they need you to manage things for them. But that's often not true. They're more capable than you think. They've just never had to develop that capability because you've been doing it for them. When you stop holding, people step up. Not always. Not everyone. But often, people rise to meet what's needed when they have to, when they don't have someone else doing it for them. So trust them. Trust that they can figure things out. Trust that they can handle their own problems. Trust that they can carry their own emotional weight. Trust that they're adults capable of adult responsibility. And if they can't, if they genuinely don't have the capability, then they need support, but not from you carrying everything for them. They need actual help, professional support, skill development, appropriate resources. Not you exhausting yourself trying to compensate for what they lack. Trusting others' capability is also trusting the natural consequences of life. If someone doesn't handle something and it goes poorly, that's a learning experience for them. That's how growth happens. You protecting them from natural consequences doesn't actually help them. This trust is hard when you've been the one preventing things from falling apart. But it's necessary, because you can't hold everything forever. And the longer you hold, the less capable others become. Your holding is keeping them dependent. So what actually happens when you stop holding everything together? When you let your hands open? When you release your grip on all you've been carrying? First, there's disorientation. You've been holding for so long that not holding feels strange, foreign, like something's missing. You might reach for the weight again, out of habit. Your hands feel empty without something to grip. This is normal. You've been in holding mode for so long that it's become your default. Letting go requires reorienting to a new way of being. And that takes time. Be patient with the disorientation. Second, there's guilt. You let go, and immediately the voice starts. You should be holding this. People need you. You're being selfish. You're abandoning your responsibilities. You're letting everyone down. That voice is strong. It's been trained into you for years. But it's not truth. It's conditioning. It's the internalized pressure that keeps you holding more than your share. You can hear it without believing it. Third, there might be backlash. The people who've benefited from you holding everything, they might not like the change. They might push back. You've changed. You're not yourself. What's wrong with you? Translation: I liked it better when you were holding my weight for me. This is hard, but it's also information. It shows you who was in relationship with the real you versus who was in relationship with what you could do for them. That's painful to discover, but it's valuable. Fourth, there's space. So much space. All the energy, time, attention you were using to hold everything, that becomes available. And at first, you might not know what to do with it. You might feel lost, purposeless, because holding everything gave you purpose, and without it, who are you? But gradually, that space fills with you, your actual interests, your actual needs, your actual life. Things you haven't had room for because you were too busy holding everyone else's life together. Fifth, there's grief. You grieve the time you lost holding what wasn't yours. You grieve the relationships that were based on your utility rather than genuine connection. You grieve the version of yourself who thought holding everything was necessary, valuable, sustainable. Let yourself grieve. Grief is how we metabolize loss. And there is loss here, loss of a role, a way of being, an identity. That loss is real and it deserves acknowledgement. When you let go, when you stop holding everything together, things do come back together. But they come back together differently. And that's actually the point. Relationships reorganize. Some deepen because they were always based on real connection, and now there's space for even more intimacy. Some fade because they were only sustained by your effort, and without that effort, there's nothing there. Both are okay. Both are honest. Your sense of self reorganizes. You're not just the holder anymore. You're a person with needs, limits, vulnerabilities. You're human, not superhuman. And that humanity, that's actually more lovable than the performance of strength ever was. Your life reorganizes. Without carrying everyone else's weight, you have energy for your own life. And you discover, there are things I want to do, things I want to experience. A life I want to live that's not just about managing everyone else's life. Your priorities reorganize. When you're holding everything, everything feels urgent. But when you let go, you can actually discern what actually matters. What actually needs my attention? And often, it's a much shorter list than you thought. Things come back together, but they come back together in a way that's more sustainable, more honest, more aligned with reality. And yes, that might mean some things don't come back together at all. Some things stay apart. Some things end. And that's okay. That might be what needs to happen. When you stop holding everything, you have to learn a new way of being. Because holding has been your default for so long. You have to learn to let people carry their own weight, to resist the urge to step in and help when help isn't actually needed, to trust that people are more capable than you've been giving them credit for. You have to learn to ask for help. This is hard when you've always been the helper. But you need support too. You need people to hold you sometimes. You need to practice saying, "I need help with this," even when it feels vulnerable and scary. You have to learn to set boundaries, to say no, to let people be disappointed, to prioritize your own well-being even when it costs you others' approval. This goes against everything you were taught, but it's essential. You have to learn to tolerate other people's discomfort. When you're not holding things together, people might be uncomfortable. They might struggle. They might be unhappy. And you have to learn to let them feel what they feel without immediately trying to fix it or take it on yourself. You have to learn to be with yourself. When you're not busy holding everyone else, when you're not distracted by everyone else's needs, you're alone with yourself. And that might be uncomfortable at first. You might not know yourself very well. You might not like what you find. But staying with yourself is how you discover who you actually are. All of this is learning. You won't do it perfectly. You'll backslide. You'll fall into old patterns. That's okay. You're rewiring decades of conditioning. Be patient with yourself while you learn. Tonight, as you rest here, you have quiet permission to let go. You don't have to announce it. You don't have to make it a big dramatic thing. You just let your hands open. Let your shoulders drop. Let the weight slide off. Just for tonight. Just for these hours. You don't have to figure out what letting go looks like in your actual life. You don't have to have a plan. You just get to experience what it feels like when you're not holding everything. And that felt experience, that's important. Because your body needs to remember what it feels like to not carry everything. Your nervous system needs to experience the relief of putting things down. Your mind needs to know that you can stop holding and survive. So let yourself feel it now. The lightness, the space, the relief. The opening of hands that have been gripping for so long. You're not abandoning anyone. You're not being selfish. You're not failing at your responsibilities. You're just resting from holding. And rest is not only allowed, it's necessary. So rest now. Let the holding go. Let everything be held by something other than your constant effort. Trust that for these hours, you can stop. You can release. You can let your grip loosen completely. And tomorrow, if you need to pick some of it back up, you can. But tonight you rest. Tonight your hands are empty. Tonight you are held instead of holding. Let's talk about what it means to be held. Because you've spent so much time holding others that you might have forgotten what it feels like to be held yourself. Being held doesn't necessarily mean physical holding, though it can. It means being supported, being seen, being cared for, having someone or something bear your weight so you don't have to hold yourself up alone. Right now, in this moment, you're being held. The surface beneath you, bed, floor, couch, is holding your body. You don't have to hold yourself up. You can let your weight be carried by what's beneath you. Feel that. Notice how you don't have to do anything. You're just held. The air around you is holding you too, supporting you. You're not floating in emptiness. You're surrounded by atmosphere that has substance, that holds you in its embrace, that supports your breathing, your living, your being. The earth itself is holding you. The gravity that keeps you grounded is not a force pushing you down. It's a force holding you to something solid. You're held by planetary forces that have been working for billions of years. You don't have to do anything. You're just held. This is always true. You're always held by physical forces, gravity, solid surfaces, atmosphere. But when you're in holding mode, when you're gripping and controlling and managing, you don't notice you're held. You feel alone. You feel like you're holding yourself and everyone else up through sheer force of will. But you're not. You never were. You're always held. You just stopped noticing because you were too busy holding. The challenge of being held is trust. You have to trust that what's holding you won't drop you. And trust is hard when you've learned that you're the only reliable holder. When you've learned that if you don't hold things, they fall apart. But that belief, that you're the only one holding things together, is often not true. It's often an inflated sense of responsibility. Yes, you hold things, but other things are at work too. Other people, other forces. Life itself has a way of working things out, even without your constant management. What if you trusted that? What if you trusted that you don't have to hold everything because other things are holding too? That there's a larger web of support that includes you but doesn't depend entirely on you? This doesn't mean being naive about reality. Some things genuinely need your attention. but not everything, not all the time, not to the degree you've been giving. Can you trust that if you let go, something else will catch what needs to be caught? That life will reorganize itself, that people will step up, that things will work out, maybe not perfectly, but well enough. This trust is not something you can force. It builds gradually. You let go of small things and notice they don't fall apart. You stop holding certain situations and discover they resolve themselves. You trust incrementally, based on evidence that letting go doesn't equal disaster. Being held also requires learning to receive. And if you're someone who's always giving, always holding, always supporting, receiving is vulnerable. To receive means acknowledging you have needs, that you're not self-sufficient, that you need support too, and that might feel like admitting weakness, like revealing inadequacy. But it's not. It's revealing humanity. Everyone needs. Everyone requires support. Everyone is held by others and by forces beyond themselves. Needing is not weakness, it's reality. Can you let yourself receive? Can you let someone do something for you without immediately trying to reciprocate or prove you didn't really need it? Can you let yourself be cared for? This might require redefining what it means to be capable. You've thought being capable means not needing anyone. But actually, being truly capable includes knowing when to ask for help, includes receiving support when it's offered, includes letting yourself be held. Rest itself is a form of being held. When you rest, truly rest, not just pause before the next thing, you're allowing yourself to be held by time, by space, by the processes of recovery that happen when you're not pushing. Your body knows how to rest. It knows how to heal, restore, regenerate. But it can only do that when you stop. When you let yourself be held by sleep, by stillness, by not doing. Tonight, you're practicing this. You're letting yourself be held by this meditation, by the darkness, by the hours of rest. You're not doing anything. You're not holding anything. You're just being held. And your body is responding. Your nervous system is receiving the message. We can rest now. We don't have to hold everything. We can let ourselves be held. This is what your body needs. Not just tonight, but regularly. Consistent experiences of being held instead of holding. Consistent reminders that you're allowed to be supported instead of always supporting. One of the most important ways you allow yourself to be held is by saying no, by declining to hold what isn't yours, by refusing to take on more weight. No is not selfish. No is not mean. No is boundary setting. No is self-preservation. No is saying, I will not continue to hold more than my share. I will not exhaust myself being everyone's everything. I will protect my capacity for what's actually mine to hold. Your no might disappoint people. They might be upset. They might accuse you of changing, of not caring, of being selfish. But your no is sacred. It's the boundary that allows you to actually take care of yourself. And here's what's interesting. When you start saying no to what isn't yours, you create space to say yes to what is. Yes to what you actually care about. Yes to what actually matters to you. Yes to your own life, your own needs, your own well-being. You don't have unlimited capacity. No one does. And saying yes to everything means you're actually saying no to yourself. Your no to others is your yes to yourself. Here's the truth. You are already held. Right now. Not in the future when you've finally done enough, earned enough, proven enough. Right now. As you are. With all your imperfections and incompleteness and humanness. You don't have to become worthy of being held. You already are held. By the earth beneath you. By the people who love you, even when you can't feel it. By the forces of life that keep you breathing. Keep your heart beating, keep you alive without any conscious effort from you. You've been held this whole time, even when you felt most alone, even when you thought you were holding everything by yourself. You were still held. You just couldn't feel it because you were gripping too tightly to notice. So now, here, in this moment, can you soften? Can you release just a little bit of that grip? Not all at once. Not dramatically. Just soften. Soften your jaw. Let your tongue rest gently in your mouth. Soften your shoulders. Let them drop just a millimeter. Soften your hands. Unclench your fingers. Soften your belly. Let it be soft, not held in. This softening is vulnerability. It's the opposite of armor. It's the opposite of holding yourself together. It's allowing yourself to be loose, undefended, held by something other than your own tension. And notice, when you soften, you don't fall apart. The world doesn't end. You're still here, still whole, still safe. But now you're held instead of holding. As you move towards sleep tonight, carry this with you. You don't have to hold everything. You are allowed to be held. Tomorrow, you might wake up and immediately start holding again. That's okay. It's a habit, a deeply ingrained pattern. But now you know there's another way. Now you've felt what it's like to be held instead of holding. And you can come back to this feeling anytime, anywhere. You can pause and notice, what am I holding that I don't need to hold right now? What can I let go of, even for a moment? What's already holding me that I haven't noticed? This is the practice, not perfection, just awareness, just small moments of letting go, small moments of allowing yourself to be held. You deserve this. You deserve to be held. You always have. Now let's talk about actually receiving support. Because knowing you need support and actually letting yourself receive it are two different things. Receiving support means letting someone help you without immediately trying to reciprocate. It means accepting the help without minimizing your need for it, without proving you didn't really need it, without making yourself small. When someone offers help, your instinct might be to say, "No, I'm fine," or "I can handle it," or "It's not a big deal." These are defenses, ways of protecting yourself from the vulnerability of needing. But what if you said yes? What if you said, "Actually, yes, that would help"? What if you let someone do something for you without immediately trying to do something for them in return? This is practice. It feels uncomfortable at first, vulnerable, like you're admitting weakness, but actually, you're admitting humanity, and that strength of a different kind. Notice what happens in your body when someone offers help. Do you tense? Do you resist? Do you feel uncomfortable? Just notice. Don't judge it. Just see how deeply ingrained your pattern of not receiving is. And then practice softening. Practice letting it in. Thank you. Yes, I appreciate that. Simple words, but they open the door to being supported instead of always supporting. You've been operating with a particular definition of strength. Strength means never falling apart, never needing help, always holding it together, always being okay. But what if you redefined strength? What if strength meant having the courage to be vulnerable, asking for help when you need it, setting boundaries even when it disappoints people, admitting you're struggling, letting yourself fall apart when you need to? That kind of strength, vulnerable strength, is actually more sustainable than rigid strength, because it's flexible. It can bend without breaking. It includes your humanity rather than denying it. Vulnerable strength says, I'm struggling and I'm asking for support. I'm setting a boundary even though it's uncomfortable. I'm admitting I can't do this alone. I'm falling apart right now and that's okay. This strength doesn't make you weak. It makes you real. It makes you human. It makes you someone people can actually connect with rather than just depend on. And here's what's interesting. When you model vulnerable strength, you give other people permission to be vulnerable too. You create relationships based on mutual humanity rather than you being the strong one and everyone else being the weak ones. So tonight, as you rest, consider, what would it mean to be strong in a new way? To be strong enough to be vulnerable? Strong enough to admit you need support? Strong enough to let yourself be held? As we move towards sleep, here's the invitation. Soften, not just your body, though that too, but soften your grip on control. Soften your insistence on holding everything. Soften your resistance to being held. Softening doesn't mean collapsing. It doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing the rigid control, the tight grip, the braced tension. It means allowing flexibility where there's been only rigidity. Soften around the belief that you have to hold everything. What if you don't? What if other people can carry their own weight? What if life can unfold without your constant management? Soften around the fear of what happens if you let go. What if it's not as catastrophic as you imagine? What if things reorganize in ways you can't predict, but that work out okay anyway? Soften around the identity of being the holder. What if you're more than that role? What if you're a full human with needs and limits and vulnerability? What if that's not just okay, but actually beautiful? Softening is trust. Trust that you're held even when you're not holding. Trust that you're safe even when you're vulnerable. Trust that you're valuable even when you're not being useful. So let yourself soften now. Let your whole being soften. Let the holding energy drain away. Let yourself be held by this moment, this darkness, this rest. You don't have to hold anything. Not tonight. Not right now. You can just be held. And so we arrive at sleep. Not sleep earned through holding everything perfectly. Not sleep that comes after you've managed to keep it all together. But sleep that comes from finally allowing yourself to be held instead of doing all the holding. You've spent these hours exploring what it means to release the grip, to be held instead of holding, to let yourself be supported instead of supporting everything and everyone. And now, you can rest from all of it. If this journey brings you some peace, understanding, or permission to be gentler with yourself, like and subscribe. This helps guide others to this peaceful space. Leave a comment on what brought you here tonight. Your story might be exactly what another restless mind needs to hear. Return whenever you need to remind yourself about these truths. But for now, in this moment, your only task is to be here. Let your muscles release their tension. Feel your eyelids becoming pleasantly heavy. Allow your thoughts to slow and soften as we begin this journey together. But for now, there's nothing more to hold. No one to take care of. No weight to carry. No grip to maintain. Just rest. Just being here, held by forces greater than your own effort, and letting that be enough. Let yourself release the holding energy now, all the managing, all the controlling, all the keeping it together. Just let it go. It will be there tomorrow if you need it, but right now, you can rest from it. Nothing needs to be held tonight. Nothing needs to be managed. Nothing needs your grip. You can just be held, supported, carried. Your tension, if it's here, doesn't need to be controlled. Your worry, if it's present, can just be. Your exhaustion can exist without you having to manage it. You can rest without holding anything first. You can sleep without keeping it all together. You can simply be here, now, held, not holding, just being held. And that being enough. Let your body be completely held by what's beneath you. Let your mind be held by stillness. Let sleep hold you if it comes. Or let the darkness hold you in wakefulness if that's what is. Either way, you don't have to hold yourself. You can let go. You can just be held. I'll see you soon. May you rest be deep. And your dreams be gentle.